If I have to generalize, if you're going to, really put me against the wall and generalize, yes, Asian American healthcare workers are treated extremely differently. The Press Ganey or the feedback survey scores are generally lower for Asian Americans.
Why is that?
Than for white doctors and healthcare workers.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, it's just a lack of trust. They feel more of an impunity to write negative reviews. They don't care about their job security as much subconsciously, or there's an subconscious affinity for other people that look like them.
So does that change the behavior with Asian doctors?
Yeah.
Lucky Boys Podcast.
Asian hate.
Yeah.
Do you get any of that in the hospitals?
Me personally, or
Where does the racism or hate go so hard that when they see an Asian doctor trying to help them, do they go, hey, fuck you, give me somebody else. I don't want your kind.
I mean,
near
it
me.
happens all the time, but not to me personally.
What?
I had it maybe.
Wait, it happens all the time?
It happens all the time.
That's the part I'm what about?
Yeah.
This is during COVID?
This is before COVID.
Before COVID.
Wait, so someone's fucking in the hospital and they need
I don't
help
like you.
and
I
they're
don't like this
dying.
person.
Yeah, racism happens all the time between
And
these walls. But
it goes that deep where this person is here to save your life and probably one of the only people who can. And they'll say nope.
Islamophobia, female doctors, people who don't trust women doctors, people who don't trust a doctor wearing a hijab, people who don't trust black doctors, people who don't trust white doctors, people don't trust Asian doctors, people don't trust any doctor, people don't trust doctors. I only see, if...
Then if you don't trust doctors, why are you showing up at a hospital?
But you had no choice.
Yeah, no choice.
They picked
The
them up.
ambulance brings you over and then like, I don't trust doctors. I was like, okay, then you can leave. I mean, I personally have never been attacked verbally or physically. No, that's not true. I haven't been attacked physically for being Asian American. I have been attacked verbally for being Asian American only when I did not do something because I knew it was going to harm the patient, but they wanted it. And I said, nope, if I give it to you, you're going to die. And then they go into the whole racist tire. Or I discharge them and they don't want to leave because they want that like drug that can really hurt them. Mm-hmm. And then I know it's like, you got to go home because you're going to catch COVID, by staying in longer or something like the equivalent. And then they become racist. I mean, by the unilateral, like I walk in and it automatically is like, oh, you're Asian, I can't do that. Just because it didn't happen to me personally doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I am a 6'1", cisgendered, heterosexual man from New York who sets high boundaries and takes no shit. And I know how I speak, the eloquence in my voice and how to communicate with the patient. I know how to get down into it before it ever happens so that people don't even have an opportunity, let alone are thinking it.
So you manage the expectations and you set clear boundaries.
It's a presence. Or I walk in and I just like, they know this is not the ER where they can just take advantage of me. So I set those boundaries high in the very beginning. It's from ER, the show, set the pace. You set the pace, Carter. When I go in and I set the pace. So thankfully, I've never been a victim of physical violence. I mean, yes, I've been physically involved.
Outside of
attacked? No, in the ER. I've been physically attacked in the ER.
What?
But not for racism. You're asking through the racism.
Right.
No, just similarly, they just don't want to just punch people. Yeah, that happens every day. That's every day of my life.
That's normal?
The jacket I brought is ripped in half because of another patient. I had to stitch it together. Like that's unfortunately, and that's also another indication of what's wrong in our system, that we allow people to assault healthcare workers with impunity. With impunity. It's considered a felon, but which one of us are going to have the time to file charges? I've done it because I'm per diem. I have a lot of time, so I did it. You can't do that to doctors or healthcare workers or to my nurse. I've done it for other nurses. I've filed reports. I have the time to. But I know a lot of my colleagues, they are morally injured. The last thing you want to do is fill in up more paperwork and more paper on top of more paperwork, and then get brought in because you're causing trouble. I'm saying this in quotes by the hospital, and he's like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And put us in blast and everything, and it's really like, and they're full time, so there's leverage. Yeah. I'm per diem. I lose nothing. You just don't give me shifts. Fine.
Are Asian doctors treated differently?
It depends.
Because I'm not sure what it is in that industry, how it feels like, but we were talking earlier, and some people have to go into certain fields and they have to prove that they're American enough.
If I want to, it depends on where you are, what city you're in, what part of the country you're in. But if I have to generalize, if you're going to, really put me against the wall and generalize, yes, Asian American healthcare workers are treated extremely differently. The Press Ganey or the feedback survey scores are generally lower for Asian Americans.
Why is that?
Than for white doctors and healthcare workers.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, it's just a lack of trust. They feel more of an impunity to write negative reviews. They don't care about their job security as much subconsciously, or there's an subconscious affinity for other people that look like them.
So does that change the behavior with Asian doctors?
Yeah, if Asian Americans do, if anyone, I mean, that doesn't have to be a healthcare worker question. It could just be any question. If somebody doesn't look like you trying to sell you something versus says somebody looks like you trying to sell you something, you're going to act
Distrustful.
differently. You're gonna, it's an implicit bias that you have. You walking down the street in Chinatown and somebody looks like your grandma is trying to sell you something, as opposed to, someone that's not your race who's a grandma trying to sell you something. You right now are gonna act differently.
I understand unconscious bias, but how do they react because of that? Do they try to act more American? Is that the right way to go? Like, do they try to get accepted and assimilate? Do they try to prove?
I can't speak on behalf of other people and colleagues because I'm only practiced in New York City, New York State, and I'm a cisgendered, heterosexual, very confident man who knows how to talk and set boundaries from New York City, born and raised. I have the pedigree of knowing, being able to pick out places and neighborhoods in New York, or schools I went to, or the fact that I'm a doctor, or the privilege of just being, born in this country and knowing how to code switch with different groups and be able to identify different areas of racism that they've experienced as a student of history and racial, politics since the 1940s and 1960s, or even the birth of this country. I can really get to people in a way that, I'm not saying like I'm all great enough, but I know that I cannot speak on behalf of a colleague of mine who's Asian American, who may not have had that privilege or experience, or may have a little of an accent, or not familiar, or maybe they're a New Yorker like me. If I practice in the South, maybe I'll experience it differently. True. Or in the Midwest, maybe I'll experience it. Maybe I will be able to help tell you a story.
So it seems like you have a high awareness for this, right? And
let alone a woman.
Right.
Like, imagine what women have to deal with when they call nurses when they're actually doctors. Not that there's anything wrong with being a nurse, but when they say, where's my doctor, after they've been fully taken care of and everything, they have to work, they have to have an extra conversation.
For the record, a woman doctor saved my life. She operated. She saved my life. She literally, I was right there.
The world would be a better place if it was run by women more.